The demand of the Council. The Galactic Council chamber was built to remind everyone of power. The floor stretched wider than any city plaza on Earth. The ceiling rose like a mountain of glass, and giant banners of alien empires hung from every arch. Each one told the same story: obey or be destroyed. Rows of alien leaders sat in high thrones, their bodies glittered with strange markings, their eyes glowed with cold fire. The air was heavy with pride, arrogance, and silence. At the center of the chamber, a single platform rose. A spotlight shone down. And on that platform stood Earth's delegation, 3 humans dressed in dark uniforms, small compared to the towering species around them. The council speaker, a tall being with crystal skin and 4 burning eyes, lifted his hand. His voice thundered across the hall. Humanity, you stand before us. You were given the chance to prove loyalty. Now we demand your tribute. A wave of approval ran through the alien thrones. Some tapped their claws on the seats, others nodded with smug smiles. The speaker continued, his tone full of scorn. Your planet will deliver resources, metals, energy, food. You will provide soldiers for our wars, ships for our fleets, and mines for our machines. Every year you will pay. As all species pay, you are not special. You are not strong. You are nothing but dust that we allow to live. Laughter rolled through the chamber, cruel and sharp. The sound bounced from wall to wall, shaking the platform where the humans stood. The second delegate, a woman with steel-gray eyes, clenched her fists. The youngest, barely more than a cadet, bit his lip until it bled. But the one in front, the ambassador, remained calm. His back was straight, his face unreadable. The speaker leaned forward, his crystal body glowing brighter. We offer protection in exchange for obedience. This is mercy. Refuse us, and Earth will burn. Another alien leader hissed, his long neck stretching forward. You will kneel, or you will vanish. More voices joined, chanting in dozens of languages. Kneel! 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 The chamber shook with their cries, as if the very walls demanded submission. The humans stood silent, small figures swallowed in a storm of power. The council waited, confident that Earth would do as every other species had done. Beg surrender. The speaker spread his arms. Now humanity, what is your answer? The hall grew quiet. Silence fell like a blade. Every glowing eye turned toward the humans. The ambassador finally moved. He stepped forward, his boots echoing against the crystal floor, his face calm, almost too calm. He looked up at the thousands of eyes staring down at him. When he spoke, his voice was steady, not loud, but it carried through the chamber like thunder. Our answer, he said, pausing long enough for every alien to lean closer, is no. One word, just 2 letters. Yet it ripped through the council like a blast. For a heartbeat, no one moved. The silence was deeper than death. Then whispers erupted, shouts, screams of disbelief. The speaker's eyes flared with fire. What did you say? The ambassador repeated, louder this time, each syllable cutting the air. No. The hall exploded into chaos. Some leaders shouted for war, others demanded immediate punishment. Many laughed, calling it madness, but behind their laughter was fear. Daniel, the young cadet, felt his knees shake, but his chest burned with pride. His people had not bowed. They had not begged. They had not broken. The ambassador stood firm, unshaken. His single word had shattered centuries of obedience. Lyara, a warrior from another race, sitting far in the shadows, whispered under her breath, "Impossible." Her people had bowed long ago, like everyone else. To see humans defy the council with one word sent a chill through her bones. The speaker slammed his hand against the throne, the crystal cracking under his rage. You dare defy the council? You dare spit on our mercy? The ambassador didn't flinch. We dare. Gasps spread. The word echoed again, bouncing across the walls, filling every corner of the chamber. And in that moment, the galaxy changed, because no one, no world, no race, had ever answered the council like that before. Shock across the stars. The word still echoed in the council chamber long after the humans left. No, so small, so simple, but it carried like a weapon. Alien leaders sat frozen in their thrones, their glowing eyes wide, their mouths twisted in disbelief. Some laughed nervously, calling it a human joke. Others hissed in fury, their claws scraping the arms of their chairs. A few sat in silence, and that silence was worse than the anger, because it meant they were thinking. The council speaker slammed his crystal hand against the floor, cracks spreading like lightning. No species has ever defied us. No world has ever refused. Humanity will be punished until their bones are dust. The chamber roared in agreement, but the unity was already breaking. Several leaders leaned close to one another, whispering fast in their own tongues. They remembered something. The way the human ambassador's voice hadn't shaken, the way he had looked them all in the eye without fear. That wasn't foolishness, that was defiance. By the next cycle, the word had spread beyond the council hall. On trading stations, smugglers laughed as they told the story. Did you hear? The humans told the council no. On slave worlds, whispers traveled from mine to mine. The humans refused. They didn't kneel. On border colonies, where the council's soldiers demanded tribute, frightened civilians asked in hushed voices, "If Earth can say no, why can't we?" The council tried to control the story, but the galaxy was too wide. Every transmission, every rumor carried the word further. Across thousands of worlds, one single syllable had become a spark. Meanwhile, on Earth, screens flickered. With alien broadcasts, the council's fury was clear. Images of fleets assembling, ships stretching across the void like silver blades. They promised fire, punishment, total destruction if humanity did not kneel. In bunkers deep below the surface, Earth's leaders gathered. Some were pale with fear, others burning with quiet pride. The ambassador stood at the center of the table, repeating the same word he had spoken before, calm and steady. No. Daniel, the youngest officer in the room, felt his chest tighten with both dread and pride. He whispered, "We just signed our death sentence." An older general placed a hand on his shoulder. "Or we signed the galaxy's freedom back." In the council, arguments tore the chamber apart. One elder shouted, "Humanity is weak. Crush them quickly before their defiance spreads." Another growled, "They are small, yes, but bold, too bold. Perhaps they know something we do not." A third hissed, "It does not matter. Kill one world, kill 1 billion humans. The rest will obey again." But even as they argued, they all knew it wasn't that simple anymore. The word was out, and words once spoken could not be killed with fire. Liara, the warrior who had watched in silence, returned to her barracks that night. Her fellow soldiers mocked the humans, laughing at their arrogance, but Liara stayed quiet, staring at the stars through the window. She couldn't forget the human ambassador's calm face. She couldn't forget how steady his voice had been. In her people's language, no was a forbidden word, rarely spoken to the council, never without punishment. And yet the humans had said it not once but twice. She whispered to herself, "They are not afraid." Across the galaxy, that same thought began to take root. Not afraid. For centuries, the council had ruled through fear. Worlds bent their knees, not because they respected the council, but because they were afraid of the council's fire. Now, a small, fragile species from a blue planet had shattered that illusion with a single word. The council speaker gathered his generals, his voice filled with rage. "Send the fleets. Burn their skies. Let the galaxy see what happens when someone says no." But even as the orders were given, doubt had already started to spread. Some counselors hesitated. Some soldiers wondered. And on 100 worlds, the oppressed whispered the word that had shaken empires. No. Preparing for war on Earth. The skies glowed with satellites and defense grids, every screen filled with the same message from the Galactic Council: submit or burn. The broadcasts showed alien fleets gathering in the void, ships the size of mountains, weapons that had shattered worlds before. People across the planet watched in silence. Some trembled, some clenched their fists, some whispered prayers. In the underground command bunker of New Geneva, Earth's leaders sat around a long steel table. Maps of space flickered in holograms. Above them, red dots marking the council's armadas. The ambassador who had spoken the word no stood calmly at the head of the table. His eyes scanned the room, steady and firm. "They are coming," he said simply, "and we will not kneel." The words fell like iron. Some leaders shifted nervously, but no one argued. A general with sharp eyes slammed his fist on the table. "Then we fight. We've prepared for this day since first contact." Around the bunker, walls hissed open, revealing secret schematics long hidden, plans for warships, orbital cannons, stealth drones. For years, humanity had smiled politely at the Council while building weapons in silence. Now it was time to use them. In hidden shipyards orbiting Jupiter, black warships powered up. Their hulls were plated with magnetic armor, their cannons loaded with tungsten rods designed to pierce shields. In the asteroid belt, mining colonies revealed their second purpose: missile, silos disguised as drills ready to launch swarms of fire. Even the moons were armed. Bases buried deep under Europa's ice warmed their engines. Titan's factories churned out drones by the thousands. The galaxy had seen Earth as weak, but Earth had been preparing in the dark. Daniel, the young officer who had watched the Council demand tribute, now walked the hangars of the Sol fleet. The air smelled of oil, metal, and burning plasma. Engineers shouted, soldiers drilled, captains ran checks on their crews. The noise was thunder, but it carried only one rhythm: war. Daniel paused in front of a ship being fueled. Its name was painted in bold white letters: Defiance. He whispered to himself, "Fitting." Liara, far away on a Council cruiser, received reports of Earth's mobilization. She read in silence, her eyes narrowing. "Humans are arming. Everywhere." One officer reported, his voice mocking. "They believe they can stand against us." But Liara wasn't laughing. She remembered the ambassador's calm face, his one-word reply. "They are not just standing," she whispered. "They are waiting." Back on Earth, the ambassador stood before the gathered military council. "We don't fight for tribute. We don't fight for power. We fight because no one has ever told the Council no. And if we stand now, we do it not just for us, but for every world watching." The room fell into silence, the weight of his words pressing on every chest. The general nodded sharply. "Then let the galaxy watch. We'll show them what humans are made of." Signals flashed across the system. Codes long hidden were activated. Operation Iron Sky, begin. Across Earth, civilians were evacuated into bunkers. Factories shifted into full war production. Fields of farmland grew silent as machines carried steel instead of crops. Every human heart beat with a mix of terror and pride. They were small compared to the galaxy, but they were not afraid. In orbit, fleets moved into position, black shapes cutting across the stars. Missiles hummed, railguns aligned. Stealth systems cloaked human ships into shadows. The Council thought they would meet prey. Instead, they would meet hunters. Daniel stood on the bridge of the Defiance, his uniform crisp, his hands trembling just slightly. He stared at the stars where the enemy would come from. Beside him, the captain said quietly, "First battle won't decide the war, but it will decide the story told about us." Daniel nodded, his voice low. "Then we make sure the story begins the right way." Far beyond the system, the Council's armadas ignited their engines, moving toward Earth like a storm. But already, in the shadows of the void, human ships waited. The war for the galaxy's soul had begun. The first strike. The void between stars was silent, but it was the kind of silence that came before a storm. The Council fleet arrived in Earth's system like a wall of fire. Dozens of colossal warships, each bristling with weapons, stretched across the black. Their shields shimmered like suns, their engines burned with cruel light. From the command ship, a voice boomed across all channels. "This is your final chance, humanity. Kneel and live as servants, refuse and die as ash." On the bridge of the Defiance, Daniel stood behind the captain, his heart pounding. Every crew member was tense, eyes fixed on the glowing red dots that filled their radar. The captain's voice was calm, steady as steel. "Transmit our answer." The comms officer tapped a switch. A single word was sent across the void. "No." The council fleet roared forward, weapons powering up. Beams of light lit the dark as they fired. But the humans were ready. From behind the shadow of Jupiter, black warships rose. From the asteroid belt, hidden missile silos launched swarms of fire. Stealth drones uncloaked, swarming like angry hornets, toward the council ships. The first council cruiser took a direct hit. Tungsten rods from a railgun slammed into its shield. The shield cracked like glass under too much weight. The second shot ripped straight through, tearing the ship apart. In a silent explosion of fire, the council commanders shouted in shock. Impossible. Their weapons should not pierce our shields. But human weapons had been designed in secret, tested in silence, built for one purpose only: defiance. Daniel gripped the rail of the bridge as the battle unfolded. They didn't expect us to fight like this, he whispered. The captain nodded, eyes locked on the holographic map. Good, let them choke on surprise. Missiles streaked past, exploding in brilliant flashes. Human ships weaved between the massive council vessels, using speed instead of size, precision instead of raw power. A single destroyer darted under a battleship, planting charges before diving away. Seconds later, the battleship erupted in fire, breaking into glowing shards. The council fleet fired back, beams of plasma slicing across space. One human frigate was caught, split apart in a blaze. The bridge of the Defiance shook as shock waves rattled through the system. Daniel's stomach tightened, but his eyes stayed on the fight. We can't match their numbers, he said. We don't need to, the captain replied. We just need to bleed them. The plan was cruel and simple. Strike hard, destroy enough ships to make them fear, and then vanish before the full weight of their fleet could fall. From the dark side of Earth's moon, more human ships appeared, railguns firing in perfect rhythm. Council ships cracked, their shields falling one by one. But then came the turning point. A massive dreadnought moved into the fight, its cannons glowing bright as stars. It fired once, and an entire line of human destroyers vanished in a single wave of fire. The bridge of the Defiance shook violently as shock waves rippled through space. Daniel grabbed onto a console, his breath catching. How do we fight that? The captain's eyes narrowed. We don't. Not today. Signals flashed across the fleet. Phase 2. Human ships broke formation, pulling back toward the asteroid belt. The council fleet roared after them, believing they had won. But when the council dreadnought crossed the belt, the trap was sprung. Hundreds of hidden mines lit up, detonating in a chain reaction. The dreadnought's shields buckled under, the storm cracks spreading like spiderwebs. Then with one final railgun shot from the Defiance, the giant split apart, its core exploding in a silent starburst. The battlefield froze. For the first time in centuries, a council dreadnought had fallen, and not to another empire, but to humans. The captain gave the order. All ships disengage, leave survivors. Daniel blinked, confused. We're not finishing them? The captain's voice was cold. No, let them crawl back to the council. Let them tell the story of what happened here. The fleet turned, vanishing back into the shadows of the system. Behind them, broken council ships drifted in silence, survivors sending frantic transmissions back to their masters. Daniel stood on the bridge, chest heaving. We actually did it, he whispered. The captain gave a faint smile. No, this was only the first strike. And across the galaxy, the legend began to spread. Humanity had defied the council, and one. The word echoes. The survivors of the battle limped back toward the council's core worlds. Their ships were cracked and burning, hulls torn open, crews silent with shame. Once proud captains now whispered like children, afraid of their own voices. When the battered fleet arrived, the council chamber erupted with fury. Leaders slammed their claws and fists against the crystal floor. How can this be? One demanded. Humans are primitives, another shouted. No shield should have fallen to their weapons. The council speaker stood, his crystal body trembling with rage. His voice shook the chamber. You let them strike you like hunters strike prey. You let them destroy a dreadnought, and worst of all, his voice dropped to a hiss, you returned alive to spread their insult. But it was too late. The insult was already spreading. Every soldier who survived told the same story. How the humans had spoken one word to the council. How they had fought with fire, with cunning, with courage. How they had destroyed ships thought to be untouchable. On distant colonies, the whispers grew louder. Did you hear? The humans said no to the council. They killed a dreadnought. They left survivors to tell the tale. For the first time in centuries, fear shifted. It no longer belonged only to the oppressed. Now it clung to the council itself. In the dark corners of the galaxy, rebels raised their heads. On slave worlds, miners passed the word in secret tunnels. On border stations, traders muttered it with smirks. Even among the council's own soldiers, doubt began to spread. Liara Kama, still stationed with her unit, listened in silence as her comrades mocked the humans. They are lucky, one sneered. Next time we will burn their world, another said. But Liara said nothing. She had seen their faces, heard the calmness in their voices. She remembered the dreadnought exploding like a dying sun. No comma, she whispered to herself. The word lingered in her chest like a spark. On Earth, the atmosphere was tense but alive. For the first time in history, humanity had fought the galaxy's overlords and walked away standing. The streets buzzed with energy. Civilians painted the word on walls, banners, even the sides of ships. No. In a bunker deep under London, Earth's leaders gathered again. The ambassador stood at the center, calm as ever. They will come harder next time, a general warned. Yes, the ambassador said, but they can never take back what has already happened. Daniel sat quietly, still wearing his officer's uniform from the Defiance. His body was sore, his mind replaying the battle again and again. Finally, he spoke, his voice rough but steady. We proved something, not just to them, to everyone watching. The ambassador nodded, and the word will keep spreading. Across the galaxy, it did. One by one, species that had long been silent began to whisper it. One by one, slaves lifted their heads in secret. One by one, rulers realized the council was not unbreakable. The council tried to crush the message with propaganda. They broadcast hollow visions showing humans as weak, foolish, doomed. But even in their lies, the truth slipped through, because everyone had already seen the dreadnought fall. Everyone had already heard the word, and nothing, not fire, not armies, not fear could erase it. In the council's inner chambers, leaders argued louder than ever. They must be destroyed before others rise. Strike them with everything we have. Or, perhaps we should talk. The last voice silenced the room. To even suggest negotiation was dangerous, forbidden. But the seed was planted. Doubt had entered the chamber of gods. Meanwhile, in the quiet of her quarters, Liara received a private transmission, grainy footage of the human ambassador, calm and proud, speaking that one word in the council hall. She replayed it again and again, unable to look away. They said no, she whispered, almost in awe. And for the first time in her life, she wondered if the council could fall. Breaking the chains. The council chamber had grown restless. For centuries, it had been a place of control, where alien rulers barked orders and every world obeyed. But now, every debate turned into shouting. Every whisper carried the same name. Humans. Some counselors demanded full extermination. Burn their world. End the story before it spreads. Others looked uneasy. It has already spread, one elder muttered. Even if Earth is destroyed, the word remains. Across the galaxy, proof of that truth was everywhere. On a mining colony near the edge of council space, workers with chains on their wrists gathered in the dark. They repeated the story in hushed voices. The humans fought them. They killed a dreadnought. They said no. For the first time, the workers did not bow when the guards entered. Their eyes were alive with something new. Hope. On a trading hub, merchants painted the word across their stalls. No. The guards tried to erase it, but more signs appeared each night. The more the council tried to silence it, the louder it grew. Even among the soldiers of the council, cracks began to show. Some stood in silence when orders were barked. Others asked questions they never dared before. A few even deserted, vanishing into the stars. Liara watched all this unfold from her barracks. Reports flooded in of uprisings, small rebellions, whispers, becoming shouts. Her commanders dismissed them as minor, but Liara knew better. The humans had lit a fire. Late one night, she sat alone staring at her communicator. She replayed the footage of the human ambassador again. His calm voice, his steady eyes. That one word. No. She whispered it under her breath. If they can, why not us? Back on Earth, preparations never slowed. Factories roared day and night. Hidden fleets rose from shadow. Civilians trained. In bunkers, children learned drills. Entire cities readied themselves. Humanity knew the storm was coming, but their resolve only hardened. In the command bunker, Daniel stood before a wall of glowing transmissions. They came from across the galaxy. Secret messages from alien rebels, smugglers, even soldiers. Each one carried the same phrase. We heard your word. Daniel turned to the ambassador. They're looking to us. They're waiting for guidance. The ambassador's face remained calm, but his voice carried iron. Then give it to them. A signal was prepared, one that would be broadcast across the stars. When the time came, Earth's message would not be long or complicated. It would be simple, direct, impossible to erase. Meanwhile, the council scrambled to respond. Fleets were stretched thin, not only preparing for the war against Earth, but also rushing to crush uprisings on other worlds. Each rebellion fed the next. Each rumor of human defiance made the council weaker. The matriarch of Liara's people stormed into the chamber one evening, her voice sharp. If you do not crush Earth soon, you will lose the galaxy itself. The council speaker hissed in return. We will. We prepare the largest fleet in history. Earth will burn, and the others will learn fear again. But deep down, even he knew fear was no longer theirs to control. In the shadows of the galaxy, 1,000 sparks glowed brighter, and all of them had been lit by a single word. Back on Earth, as the fleets powered up and soldiers armed themselves, Daniel stood at a window overlooking the city below. Lights burned across the skyline, millions of people preparing for what was to come. He whispered softly, almost to himself. We're not just fighting for us anymore. Behind him, the ambassador's voice echoed, calm and unshakable. No, we fight for everyone who ever wanted to say no but couldn't. And above them the stars waited. The council's largest fleet was gathering. The final storm was on its way. The final message. The largest fleet the galaxy had ever seen rose from the void like a storm of fire. Hundreds of council warships, dreadnoughts, carriers, and cruisers moved together, blotting out the stars. Their engines lit the black with cruel light. From the bridge of the Defiance, Daniel stared at the radar. It looked like a wall of red, swallowing the map. His chest tightened, but his voice stayed firm. They've brought everything. The captain nodded, calm even now. Good. Let them. We'll show them everything we've prepared. Across the Sol system, hidden fleets activated. Massive railguns on asteroids turned toward the enemy. Mines floated silently in fields, waiting. Human carriers rose from the shadows of Saturn, their wings of drones lighting up like swarms of fireflies. Earth itself was ringed with defenses, orbital cannons, stealth satellites, and fleets waiting in ambush. Humanity had built a fortress not of walls but of shadows and will. The council speaker's voice thundered across all channels. Humans, this is your last moment to kneel, submit, and perhaps we will spare a fraction of your world. On the radio, Defiance. The comms officer looked to the ambassador. Everyone waited. The silence was heavy. The ambassador leaned forward, his voice steady, his eyes calm. Transmit. And once again, across every channel, the word carried. No. The Council. Fleet roared forward. The first wave struck Earth's outer defenses. Railguns fired, their tungsten rods smashing through shields. Stealth mines detonated, tearing cruisers apart in bright bursts. Human ships darted between giants, striking like wolves against lumbering beasts. The void burned. Explosions lit the darkness. Ships split apart. Fire reigned in silence. Daniel gripped the rail of the bridge as the Defiance fired again and again. His voice was hoarse but fierce. Hold the line. Don't give them an inch. The battle raged for hours. Humans lost ships, but for everyone they lost, 3 Council warships fell. The galaxy watched in disbelief as humans fought like no one ever had. On distant worlds, rebels tuned their transmitters to the fight. Slaves in the mines cheered when they heard the word echo again. Traitors wept openly as reports of Council losses spread. Even Council soldiers hesitated as the tide turned. Then came the final moment. The Council's flagship, the Speaker's own dreadnought, loomed above Earth, its cannons glowing brighter than suns. One strike could erase a continent. The Speaker's voice roared, shaking the system. Humanity, this is your end. But before the dreadnought could fire, every hidden cannon, every railgun, every human ship turned as one. Fire! The captain of the Defiance shouted. The sky lit up with human fury. A storm of tungsten, missiles, and plasma slammed into the dreadnought. Its shields cracked, its hull tore apart, and in one final blinding explosion, the Council's proudest ship died above Earth. The Speaker's voice vanished into static. Silence fell. The Council fleet wavered. Without their leader, their courage shattered. One by one, ships turned and fled into the black. On the Defiance, Daniel's chest heaved. His voice was raw but steady. We did it, he whispered. The ambassador stood, tall, his uniform scorched but his eyes burning with calm fire. He opened the comms to every channel in the galaxy. Billions listened, from slave mines to royal palaces. His voice was steady, clear, unshakable. The Council asked for tribute. We gave them our answer. We give the same answer now to anyone who tries to chain us. Our answer is simple. He paused, letting the silence carry. Then he spoke the word. No. The word echoed across the stars. On distant worlds, rebels rose, chains were broken, guards were struck down. Entire species shouted the same word in defiance. No. In the council chamber, surviving elders sat in silence, their eyes wide with fear. The power they had built for centuries crumbled in a single moment. On the Defiance, Daniel looked out at the stars, still burning from the battle. His voice was soft, full of disbelief and pride. All this, from one word. Liara, watching from a distant barracks, smiled for the first time in years. She whispered the word to herself, almost like a prayer. No, and the galaxy changed forever.